This is the Monome Teletype. It's a really fun module, but it can be a little daunting to get started with. So this is the first in a series of little video tutorials I'm going to make to introduce you to all the fun you can have with it. I've mounted it in this Intellijel 62 HP pallet case, and I've added just a few more modules to really show what you can do with it. But for now, in this video, we're just going to look at the teletype itself. When you start up the teletype, you are going to be in live mode. There are three modes for you to know: live mode, edit mode, and tracker mode. You change between them by using tab on your keyboard. Keyboard is connected via the USB on the front of the teletype. If you have a modern teletype, most keyboards should work. If you have an older teletype, you might need a keyboard that draws very little power. Most importantly though, a teletype cannot handle a keyboard that has a USB hub in it. You also cannot put a USB hub on the teletype and connect your keyboard to that. So just something to be aware of. The teletype has 8 trigger inputs. If you send a pulse to any of those, it will trigger the according script. And we'll get into what scripts are in an upcoming video. There's a CV input where you can read the voltage from. So you can send other things in there like an LFO or an envelope or really anything else like that. The teletype can't quite read things fast enough for you to do anything audio rate, so don't expect to be able to put audio in and process that. It also has this knob that you can read the position of, so you can use that as a setting in your scripts that lets you change how the script operates. Then we have 4 trigger outputs and we have 4 CV outputs. So the triggers, like with anything else, you could connect it to this module, the Plonk, to the trigger input, and it would trigger that. Plonk would play a sound. The CV outputs you can use as anything you would normally use CV outputs to, so you could use them as a pitch control, but you could also use them to modulate things. And we'll go into that in a future video as well. For now, let's take a quick look at the actual interface and the actual way that you program the teletype. So make sure that you are in the live mode, and you can recognize it, the live mode, by the little greater than sign down in the corner. So if you just tap through it, at some point you will see the little greater than sign. If you've accidentally pressed the tilde button, you might see this overlay of variables, which can be very useful once you really start programming it. But for now, you can just press tilde again to remove them. When you enter something in live mode, teletype will try to understand it and then do whatever you're asking it to do. So if you write something in that it does not understand, like hello world, the minute it hits something it doesn't understand, in this case hello, it'll just tell you, I don't understand what that word is. You try to do something that it does understand, plus 1, 2. The answer is 3. Now that might look a little weird, but that's something you'll have to get used to with the teletype. We're normally used to, at least if you haven't done any arcane programming, you're used to what's called an infix operator, which means you would have 2 plus 1, and you would expect that to work. But if you do that in the teletype, it's going to tell you that there's not enough parameters for plus. And the reason for that is that the way teletype looks at the world is it looks at an operator and then it expects the parameters for that operator to come after it. So in this case, plus 2, 1, we first have the operator plus, and then we have the 2 parameters that are needed for plus, the 2 numbers we want to add. If we press enter on that, we see that it works. We can also do something like divide 10, 2, and we'll get the result 5, which is as we expect. So you might be wondering, how does this work for a larger expression? How do you group things up? Like, we could do something like, normally we would say maybe 6 plus 4 divided by 2. So we would expect 6 plus 4 is 10. We divide that by 2 and we get 5 out. But just like before, this doesn't work for the teletype. It doesn't understand this. So we can break this down and look at it. So the first part, 6 plus 4, we now know we have to do like this, plus 6, 4. Right. So that's somewhat easy to know, but how do we deal with then dividing it by 2? Well, we just have to remember and understand the way that the teletype sees the world. So this expression might look a little convoluted when you first look at it, but let's try to break it down. The first operator that the teletype finds, it's going to scan from right to left, is the plus. It knows that the plus needs 2 parameters, so the next 2, if it walks forward, 6 and 4 belong to it. So it's going to turn that into 10, and now we have the division symbol, and then 10, and then 2. So if we run this whole thing, we'll see that we get the 5 that we expect. I'm going to try to do little visuals that break this down for you through the upcoming tutorials. So if we look at this one again, divide plus 6, 4, 2. Now look at this little visualization here, and you'll see that I've marked the different groups that teletype is seeing. And if you start thinking about them like that in your mind, it becomes a little easier to read other people's code, or sometimes your own code after a few weeks have passed by. But the general rule of thumb to find out what these groups are is to start all the way to the right and then work your way to the left, find an operator, figure out how many parameters that operator needs. Those are then a group, and then go back to the next operator and look at what parameters that operator needs. And one of those parameters might be another group. This might seem a little confusing, but trust me, you'll get the hang of it soon. I think that's about it for the very first video. I'm going to do a lot of these. I'm going to try to make them very short. I'm going to try to have each focus on just a single topic so that you can just jump in and pick the video that matches the topic you're looking to learn about. Hopefully this will be useful. If there are specific things you would like me to do sooner rather than later, just leave a comment and tell me. And I hope I'll see you back watching soon. Thanks.